Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. So greatly appreciated. Truly, truly is. Before we start, let me give you my usual disclaimer that this video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so. It really, really helps me out and I really, really appreciate it. I truly, truly would. Okay, with that, let's start. Joe Cinque was born on June 11th, 1971 in Newcastle, New South Wales, which is about 105 miles from Sydney, to parents Maria and Nino Cinque, who were both Italian immigrants. He had a younger brother named Anthony. They were an extremely close family, and they would have dinner every single night together at exactly 6 p.m. Okay. If you have off-the-boat relatives, then you know what a big deal this is, okay? My grandparents were off the boat, okay? And they had dinner every single night at 5 o'clock, like clockwork. 5 p.m., you sat down and you ate dinner. Salad, dinner, dessert, period. Life stopped at 5 o'clock for dinner. We're going to come back around to this. That's why I'm mentioning it. It's not useless information, I promise you. So, Joe. Joe was described as a keen sportsman. He loved sports, and he played all of them. He was very intelligent, vivacious, full of life, an extrovert to his core, and an all-around great guy. He graduated from college in November of 1994 at the age of 24 with a degree in civil engineering. And not long after that, he got a job at the same civil engineering firm that his father and grandfather were employed at. In early 1995, Joe was out with some friends when he would meet a girl named Singh. Singh was born on September 3rd, 1972 in India to parents Patty and Surinder, who were both Indian doctors that migrated to Sydney in 1973, where they would have another child. Anu's father described her as a very clingy child and says that it got to the point where she was unable to sleep unless she was in her parents' bedroom. He goes on to say that Anu was an obedient, happy-go-lucky girl who played a lot of sports and was a great student. She matured early and she started wearing skimpy clothes and going out with boys at the start of her teenage years. Despite her parents' concern for their boy crazy teen, she did great in school and she obtained extremely high scores in her year-end school exams. After graduating high school, Anu was admitted into Australian National University in Canberra, where she was studying for a double degree in economics and law. She wasn't as serious about college as she was about high school, though. Maybe it was her newfound freedom. She just inherited, but she began exploring in recreational, put her studies on the back burner, and became obsessed with working out at the gym and testing a wide variety of fad diets. Anu's father became increasingly concerned about how much weight his daughter was losing, so much weight that she began to have saggy skin that she would refer to as fat. There was also a phase where she became a vegetarian and lived on Diet Coke and chocolate biscuits. In 1993, Anu started dating a man named Simon that she met at college. She would end up getting pregnant and then later terminating the pregnancy, which was said to be an extremely traumatic experience for her. Between 1993 and 1996, Anu's recreational habit increased and she began using speed, acid, the white stuff that goes up your nose, X, and F, which began causing her to hallucinate. In 1995, she decided to take a break and go back home for a little while, which is when she would meet Joe Cinque. Anu and Joseph's relationship progressed rather quickly, even though it was long distance at first. and the couple seemed very happy, loving, and affectionate. As the relationship progressed, Anu's father says that she would complain about aching legs, hot flashes, pains in her body, and generally just not feeling well. She ended up going back to university, still dating Simon, and in a long-distance relationship with Joe. Simon would end up finding out about her relationship with Joe and break off the relationship with Anu. So now she's full steam ahead with Joe. Joe would call her at least 15 times a day, and every Friday he would drive 5 hours to spend the weekend with her, and Monday morning he would drive 5 hours back home to be at work by 9:30. You don't do things like that unless you're clearly invested in a relationship. And I believe that he truly would have married her at some point. Joe's parents were not the biggest fans of Anu. They believed that she was controlling him, changing him, where he was normally happy, vivacious, and outgoing. He would become very quiet when she was around, almost like he became a shell of a person. Anu was always the one that had to lead every conversation. She would call him every night at 6:10, 10 minutes after his family would sit down for dinner. His mother says she even got on the phone a few times and told her to please stop. Wait till 7 o'clock. She would say, you could call him at 7 o'clock and you could talk to him all night long if you want. But she didn't care. And when she would say something to her son would just say to her, what am I going to do, Mom? She needs me. I know that may sound trivial to some, but I understand where his mother is coming from completely. In Italian culture, and I'm sure in so many other, sitting around dinner is a huge deal. And it's not something that we take lightly. Italians show their love through food. But besides that, it is a respect factor. If you can't respect that aspect of his life, you're never going to be able to respect him as a person. That's just my opinion. In September of 1996, Joe moved into a townhouse in Canberra with Anu. That was about 2 miles from her university. So this was a college town. More importantly, it was 5 hours away from his family. At the time Joe had moved in with her, Anu had stopped her recreational use, but she was experiencing the withdrawals from it. Her eating disorder was still very present in her life, though, and it consumed a great deal of it. In 1997, Anu began to believe that she was suffering from a fatal muscle wasting disease. She would consume large quantities of ipecac. Ipecac? What is ipecac? Okay. Ipecac is a syrup that is supposed to be used as an emergency treatment for certain poisons. It is meant to cause vomiting, which in turn would cause a person to vomit up the poison. Anu was using large quantities of this to feed her eating disorder. She blamed Joe for her issues with the syrup, stating that he suggested that she start taking the medicine because she was complaining about her weight and it helps you shed weight. She also blamed Joe for her alleged muscle wasting disease that doctors could never find evidence of. In January of 1997, she began complaining to her father that she was always pacing back and forth. She was unable to fall asleep, telling him, I think I have a different head on a different body. I am going mad. Her father, Dr. Singh, arranged for her to see a psychiatrist because she began showing signs of pretty odd behavior, such as taking 10 showers a day. At one point, she believed that she was HIV positive. And she was so infuriated that she was positive and that Joe wasn't, that she had planned to put some of her blood on Joe's toothbrush so that he would contract it as well. This was also the 90s, which was the height of this. And people were terrified. But she goes to the doctor to get tested, and the tests come back negative. Then she begins telling friends that she's going to go on a rampage and kill her and Joe in a pact that Joe had no idea about. She enlisted the help of her best friend, Madhavi Rao, who was willing to do whatever it took to help her best friend out. Okay, first of all, this is not a best friend. Best friends don't do that. This is the complete opposite of a good friend, a best friend, and a good human. The two women would actually go to the school's university library together for hours researching methods of unaliving yourself. When efforts to get their hands on a gun failed, they decided to go with ODing, and they chose heroin because it was easily available to them from a former addict friend. According to court transcripts, in early October 1997, Anu contacted a friend known as Mr. T and asked him to get her 2.5 weights for $500. He loaded into 2 syringes for her and even gave her lessons on how to inject it. When he asked her why she needs so much, she replied, "Because someone's coming with me." When he asked her whether she meant that someone was going to unalive themselves with her, she said yes. When he asked her who that person was, she replied, "You don't need to know." He goes on to say that while he prepared the syringes for her, she just paced back and forth saying, "Today's the day." To which she replied, "Sit down and stop being silly." October 20th, 1997. Singh holds her first of 2 goodbye dinner parties. Keep in mind that several people at this party knew about Anu's plan and never warned Joe about it. Can you imagine? After everybody leaves, Anu gives Joe a cup of coffee that has rohypnol in it. After Joe falls asleep, Anu attempts to Joe with the issue was that in the syringe was so congealed that Anu was unable to inject it. Joe would wake up the following morning with a little worse than a really bad hangover from the laced coffee. The real question that remains is, why did none of these advanced law students warn Joe? Friday, October 24th, 1997. Anu holds her second goodbye dinner party. Again, some of the guests knew of the twisted plan, and again, nobody warned Joe Cinque. All the guests, minus Rao, left around 3:30 a.m. Again, Anu gave Joe a drink laced with rohypnol and waited for him to fall asleep. After he did, she injected him with 2 syringes, while her buddy, Rao, the other twisted bitch, sat there and watched. She would leave and go back to her apartment between 5 and 6 a.m. Joe didn't die right away like Anu thought. Rather, he suffered all day Saturday, Saturday night, Sunday morning, then finally Sunday afternoon. Anu calls her friend in a panic, telling her that Joe OD'd. Her friend tells her to call an ambulance. And Anu says no. The friend comes back at her and calls her a selfish bitch. Yeah. But the friend would finally be able to convince her to call the ambulance. Even worse, she gives the operator the wrong name and the wrong address, preventing them from getting to Joe in time to possibly save him. Because remember, he's still alive at this point. When police arrive, they see Anu straddling Joe's body, saying, "No, no, don't leave me. Joe, Joe." It would take 2 paramedics to help officers get her off of Joe and out of the room. They take her into custody. Paramedics try to get oxygen into his lungs, but he had brown substance coming out of his mouth, which made it impossible to get oxygen into his lungs. And his cause of death is asphyxiation. After it became clear that Joe had died, Anu became hysterical, screaming, "It wasn't supposed to happen this way. We were supposed to go together. Can't you do anything? There must be something you could do." Girl, there was something that you could have done 2 days ago. So with all due respect, shut the fuck up. Sorry. She then tried to kiss Joe, pulling his face, sitting on top of him, trying to embrace him. Anu is brought down to the police station for questioning. During questioning, she tells police about the pact. When they ask her why she was still alive, she never answers that question. And she still has never answered that question. Officers decide that this was not an OD and charges Anu with the murder of Joe Cinque. As the investigation continues, they realize that Anu had help. That's when they learn about Madhavi Rao. That she helped Anu research it. She helped her get the stuff. She planned the dinner party, and she carried out the sick, twisted plan with her. Singh and Rao were both charged with Joe's death, and they initially stood trial together. 4 weeks into trial, though, the joint trial was abandoned, and they would each have their own trial. Okay. Australia gives people the right to have a judge-only trial. So that is what both women went with. Probably knowing that a trial by jury would see right through her. I would say that she would never be able to fool 12 people. But, Casey Anthony, O.J. Simpson, if the syringe doesn't fit, allegedly, in my opinion, for entertainment purposes only, you get it, Anu never spoke at her trial. Her defense team said that she was mentally ill at the time of Joe Cinque's death, and because of this, has diminished responsibility. While the prosecution presented evidence that she was rational on the night of Joe Cinque's death, there was more than enough evidence to prove that she planned his death. Not once, but twice. Friends took the stand to testify. She told them that she hated Joe for allegedly suggesting the ipecac syrup to her and for allegedly getting her into it. Friends and relatives of Joe Cinque say they don't believe that he never did anything like that, so he wouldn't even know about about something like that. There was also evidence of the research that her and Rao did at the university library. Mr. T, remember Mr. T? He took the stand and testified that Anu called him in August of 2007, asking him to get When she realized that was too difficult, she called him back 2 weeks later and asked him how hard it was for somebody to OD on. And how much do you need? He even testified that he had conversations with her about how much is needed for a quick and lethal dose. While Anu was in custody, officers found a letter in her locker that was submitted into evidence that reads, "I have decided to write down how this happened, to get it clear in my mind also. I will write down what was going through my mind at that time too. I guess it all started in June of 97. I went to the National Library with Madhiva to look up on unaliving. At that stage, I was only thinking of me dying. Then we found this article that said that couples swear if their partner dies, they won't go on, but 2 or 3 years later, they remarry. I thought, then if I die, Joe will just go on and find someone else. So I thought, if I die, he has to as well." Okay, so, newsflash, you dumb fuck. That's not how this works. If you want to take your own life and be selfish, and my father did it to me, and I actually have a video about it, then that's what you do, okay? But you don't take innocent people down with you, because You're scared that he's going to move on because you decided to unalive yourself. That is not how this works. And then only you do it to him. What kind of shit is this? You don't even... What kind of shit is that? Seriously. You know what's wrong with you? You're selfish and you're evil, in my opinion. When Maria Cinque called you the devil, she was absolutely correct. You are the devil. After both sides rested, Judge Crispin spoke, saying, quote, I have carefully considered the evidence of rational and appropriate thinking in the period leading up to Mr. Cinque's death, the nature and extent of the plan that preceded it, and the other matters to which the Crown has quite properly drawn my attention to. Nonetheless, having regard to all of the evidence on this issue, I am quite satisfied that her mental responsibility for the act was substantially impaired. Accordingly, in relation to the first count, I find the accused not guilty of the offense of murder, but guilty of manslaughter. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. It gets worse. Anu was sentenced to 10 years in prison with a 4-year non-parole period. Including the time served since 1997, she was released just 18 months later for good behavior. We're not done. Madhavi Rao was tried separately in late 1999 for her role in the death of Joe Cinque, and she was found not guilty on all charges against her. Yes, not guilty. Judge Crispin found that there was reasonable doubt that she had assisted in the attempt and rejected the prosecution's argument that Rao had a legal duty of care for Cinque. I have no words. At least I have no nice words for this judge. None. Anu Singh was released from prison in October of 2001, but ended up back behind bars in 2004 for violating her parole for smoking marijuana, but was released 4 months later. In 2017, her then boyfriend, I don't know if it's still her boyfriend, spoke with Daily Telegraph, telling them that Anu has done her time and that she should not be condemned for it any longer. Going on to say, if I wake up with a needle sticking out of my arm, I wake up. If I don't wake up, I don't wake up. You do you, new boyfriend. And I wish you a lot of luck because Lord knows you're going to need it. And with that, if you guys are still here, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you so very much. Please let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I am dying to know your thoughts. And until next time, friends, stay safe out there, and I love you all.